remember things vividly in my life, but no memories are better or more memorable for me than going out into the backyard and throwing around a ball with my dad. Just that simple Shabbat afternoon activity of throwing a baseball with him in the backyard or at the schoolyard next door to where we lived, I can see so clearly in my mind. It was so simple yet so important in terms of my relationship with my father in those early years. This week's Torah portion is all about relationships, as most of the stories in the first book of Breshit are to this point. We start with the relationship between husband and wife, and brother to brother, and then to family as a whole. We continue our journey in the book with more sibling rivalry. This truly leads up to the story of Jacob and his favorite son, Joseph. This relationship of father and son was so truly unique, as Joseph was the eldest of Jacob's favorite wife, his beloved Rachel. While Benjamin was the youngest child of Rachel, she died giving birth to him, and until Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, and they told their father that he was dead, Benjamin was not a major part of the story. The unique relationship between Jacob and Joseph was one of love for them, but unfortunately bitter for his brothers, as they obviously became jealous of their father's love for him. Next day, far from home, brothers planned a repulsive crime. Let us nab him up, do him in while we've got the time. Joseph left his home as his brothers sold him to the Ishmaelites and headed off to Egypt, and eventually interpreted some dreams in jail, and then to Pharaoh, and became his right-hand man. Bop shuadawa, bop bop shuadawa, as we've read in the last few Torah portions. While I love the musical Joseph in his Technicolor Dreamcoat and all the music and splendor of the show and the Torah tell an important tale about relationships. Today we finally come to the end of the first book of the Torah with Parshat Vayechi. Jacob Israel is finally coming to the end of his days after being reunited with all of his children together in Egypt. Jacob spent the last 17 years of his life in the land of Egypt, and now it is time for him to move on. His total span of his life was 147 years. And this next act in the portion really shows the strong bond and relationship that Jacob and Joseph had together. Yu Yemei Yisrael lamut vayikra livno liYosef vayomer imna matzati chen be'einecha sim yadcha tachat yirechi vasiti imadi chesed ve'emet al tikbareni b'mitzrayim. And when the time approached for Israel, Jacob, today, he summoned his son Joseph and said to him, "Do me this favor, place your hand under my thigh as a pledge to your steadfast loyalty. Do not bury me in the land of Egypt." He further states, "When I lie down with my fathers, take me up to Egypt and bury me in the burial place." And Joseph replied, "I will do as you have spoken." As he has taken from his father when he was just 17 years old and had not seen him for all of these years, he knew he had to fulfill this last act of kindness, to bury him in Me'arat HaMachpelah, the place that was bought by Avraham Avinu, his great-grandfather, and his grandparents are buried there, and other family members as well. The next few sentences then shift to a different relationship, the more important relationship, in my opinion, of grandparents and grandchildren. There's truly nothing like that relationship. Throughout my life, I've been lucky enough to know all four of my grandparents and Andrea's grandfather, and even some of my great-grandparents. Grandparents want nothing else in the world than to give love and to get love in return from their grandchildren. They shower them with gifts and cherish every moment of watching them grow up. According to the book Talmud Torah, it is the obligation of grandparents to bestow upon their grandchildren a good Jewish education. And at Temple of Aaron, we, of course, encourage grandparents to be a part of our toddler program, encourage their children to have their children involved in our programming, a multitude of multi-generational programming for everyone in the family to be a part of, and an opportunity to donate to our grandparent fund, which assists in many educational and social programs each and every year, thanks to the kindness of Steve and Nancy Lane and other generous grandparents in our community. The important grandparent-to-grandchild relationship here in the Torah is that of Jacob and Joseph's sons. Jacob bestows upon them a blessing here to Ephraim and Manasseh, which later is used every single Friday night when we bless our own children. The blessing of these two sons of Joseph, the first two born outside of the promised land to our ancestors, became part of the parent blessing each week. But why Ephraim and Manasseh? Why are they used for this blessing? Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Zichronam Livracha, put it very well when he described this blessing of Joseph's children. He stated that Jacob's blessing of Ephraim over Manasseh, switching the hands from the younger to the older, had everything to do with the love of his favorite son and with their names. Knowing that these were the first two children of the family to be born in exile, knowing too that the exile would be prolonged at a time and difficult and dark at those times, Jacob sought to signal to all future generations that there would be a constant tension between the desire to forget and the promptings of memory. The child of forgetting, Manasseh, may have blessings, the older, but greater are the blessings of Ephraim, the younger, who remembers the past and looks to the future of which he is a part of. When Rabbi Sachs was saying is that at our time of our lives, we both need to forget the harsh times of the past, but we need to remember that those times existed in the same moment. We also need to keep pushing toward the future and feel blessed and loved like that of Jacob's blessing his grandchildren with his stronger hand on the younger child. This strong connection and bonding of generations helps us end this first book of the Torah. This past September, I had a book end in my life as my grandmother passed away between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I've been lucky to have known and spent moments with all of my grandparents and Andrea's grandfather as well. Since then, we have honored her memory in so many ways as a family, and thank you so much to those of you who helped to honor her memory as well. I remember many important moments with my grandfathers at baseball games, sitting in shul, on family trips, and more. I remember my grandmother bestowing upon me a love for Scrabble and card games, a joy felt through music, and a love of Israel and Judaism. Through Andrea's grandfather, I learned a love of companionship, a love for Cecil's Deli, and the cherished art of being there for others when they are in need. Keeping the memory of our grandparents alive is one piece of the puzzle that helps us move forward each day as we remember them, as we remember the wisdom that they bestowed upon us and the moments that we should hope to have with our grandchildren someday in the future. These are just a few of those memories and moments of learning that I took from each of these grandparents, which played a vital role in my life before they passed on. My bubby Dorothy, who will be 95 this coming week and is still with us, taught me about standing up for myself and others, putting family first, and creating important moments of love with friends and children. She also taught me to treat everyone as a unique individual. When we were younger, she would call each of us her loves, her best love, her first love, her little love, naming each of her grandchildren, her husband and daughter-in-law with love each day. Each of these grandparents taught myself and my siblings the importance of love in life. But their relationship with each of us was so unique and different, and we keep their memory alive with the things they taught us, the way we live our lives, and the things that matter most to them, which instilling of love for the world and the people around us each day. I see the same relationship with my children's grandparents as well, with my parents and Andrea's parents. They would do everything and anything for their grandchildren, from virtually teaching them how to read and do math problems with them, They take time from their lives to read stories to them and, of course, shower them with gifts, whether they are near or far. They want to ensure a world of peace and love for their grandchildren the same way my grandparents wanted that for us. I hope in 30 years my children can look back fondly upon their relationship with their grandparents the same way that I do. Ephraim and Manasseh only knew Jacob for 17 years, but I know that those years were full of love and happiness and cherished memories that they must have had throughout their lives. Joseph was lucky to have survived his journey and to once again see his father and be with him for those last years of his life in Egypt. I feel like these past months have been 17 years not being able to see my own father. And while we may not go outside and throw a ball around when all this is over, I hope and pray we will be together soon. I want him to be with his grandchildren for many years to come, showering them with gifts and love, and showing them the importance of love, of community that only he can share with them. May we all, as parents and grandparents, continue to bless each other with kindness and peace each day. Have a healthy and safe Shabbat.